Inside Michigan Football is presented by Meijer.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Inside Michigan Football. I'm Jim Brandstatter along with John Jansen, and we're talking about Michigan's victory over Indiana 29-7, night game at the Big House. And let's talk about this game defensively first, John. Last week, Michigan State, the defense had problems, substitution, late in the possession where they're getting caught out of position. This week, that was something they needed to clean up. And against Indiana, for the most part, they cleaned that up.
They did. And you know Indiana, they're an up-tempo offense. Nick Sheridan, their offensive coordinator, knows what they like to do, what they're good at. And with the freshman quarterback, you want to try and give them any advantage possible. So they were going to do that up-tempo. And Michigan did solve the issue that they had in East Lansing last week, which is good. You can only play with 11 on the field. So I'm glad they were able to fix that issue. Now it comes down to finding out, have they been able to fix all of the issues, like tackling. We saw some great tackles by Dax Hill today.
Yes, we did.
Some great open field tackles. So it looks to be something that they're continuing to work on, but until they play a team with more talent, you won't know the answer to that question.
And the thing about this game against Indiana, the Hoosiers started a true freshman quarterback, just his second game. And you had to get after him in the pass rush. And the one thing that Michigan can count on, I think, is that Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, and now you see Taylor Upshaw have a fabulous game against Indiana. They were the ones that really, I think, started the defense and lit the fire there to make that defensive performance against Indiana really stand out.
Well, when you have a freshman quarterback, and obviously the goal anytime you have a quarterback, you want to strike a little fear in them. And he knew coming into this game with the guys that you just mentioned, Hutch and Ojabo, that fear was going to be there. And then all of a sudden, he looks down and says, oh, okay, well, Hutchinson's not in there. Maybe I can roll this way a little bit. And then there's Taylor Upshaw. And Taylor Upshaw, he had a sack. He had a couple of tackles for loss. But it was the amount of times that he put pressure on the quarterback. It was a great performance by him, and one that was – I was actually talking to somebody earlier. Because Ojabo has come on, because Hutch is playing so well, we kind of lost Taylor Upshaw, and thankfully we found him again tonight.
And the key too is sometimes you don't get a sack, but what you do is you force a young quarterback out on the run, and he's going to throw the ball away. So you don't get a sack, but what you do is you get a non-productive play offensively. And I think that's the other part of pressure against a young quarterback that really put Michigan in great shape against Indiana, the way they did it against this young quarterback.
Well, and they wanted to get the ball to Ty Freifogel, Peyton Hendershot, and when you make a quarterback get off of his launch point, you eliminate half the field. When you make the offensive coordinator run, roll out passes because they're trying to change the launch point of the quarterback, you eliminate half the field. And if you can do that, it makes playing in the secondary much easier.
And here's a quick little stat for you. First time since 2019, Ty Freifogel, many people feel an All-American wide receiver, didn't catch a pass in this football game. That's how good Michigan's pass defense was. But then you go to the second half, and this defense, it was just amazing in the third quarter. No first downs, 24 plays, 53 yards total offense. And really, that's when Michigan started to pull away and take real control of this football game.
At some point, and you and I have both been a part of teams where you need the defense to set the tone. You need the defense to set the tempo. And sometimes you look to the offensive line. That wasn't here today, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But when you're talking about setting the tone, you come out in the second half, 4 drives, end in 3 and outs. That's setting the tone. That's making adjustments in the second half that make a difference in the game.
And no running game. They could not run the football. And that, again, when you can't run the football and you're forced a freshman quarterback to back up and try to make plays through the air, now all of a sudden you make them one-dimensional, and it's not the dimension that they need to be successful.
Well, anything that you can do to help a rookie quarterback, a freshman quarterback, you want to be able to take some pressure off them by being able to get the ball to the tight ends, be able to throw the ball to the running backs, be able to hand the ball off. Michigan took all of those things away and made it as uncomfortable as possible for them.
And a lot of linebackers play. You talk Josh Ross was in there, Nikhil Hill-Green. Michael Bennett made quite a bit of appearances. You also had Dax Hill playing kind of linebacker, and Brad Hawkins, same thing. So they use speed. Mike McDonald did a great job with his athletes to get them in the right spots to be successful in that second half.
I think Mike McDonald also sent a message to these guys. If if you're not going to tackle, we're going to find out who can. And we're going to give everybody that opportunity. And I think they found a couple of guys that are going to be able to step up. And I thought Nakai Hill-Green was one of those guys.
It resulted in a 29-7 Michigan victory. When we come back, we'll talk a little offense and what's going on that side of the ball. That's next on Inside Michigan Football.
Back to throw. Pressure coming. Cully hit. It's sack time.
We're back on track, where we were supposed to be and where we want to be, Like I said last week, just day by day, step by step, and just keep pushing. We made it a point in our defensive meeting room to just come out and give them everything we got. We were saying someone had to pay, for whatever decisions was made last week. For us, it's just to do our job, but, came out here and handle business.
Inside Michigan Football is brought to you in part by Meijer, official sponsor of Michigan Athletics and proud sponsors of local sports teams across the Midwest. And by Gardner White, Detroit's #1 furniture and mattress store.
2nd down and 9. They fake the run, rolling right. McNamara looks, throws, he's got his receiver. It's in the end zone. Touchdown, Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end.
The best feeling ever, but I think us tight ends, we've been working so hard, and to be able to have our room, get that tonight, it happened to be me, but it could have been anybody, and we were just all so excited for each other. So it was a great feeling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Michigan Football. We talked a lot about the defense in segment 1. The offense against Indiana in the 29-7 victory, I guess I want to call it sluggish. It wasn't always right there and up to snuff and what it, I think, could be, but it was enough to get the job done, and I think that's what you got to focus on.
It was against an Indiana team that this year isn't a very good Indiana team. They did enough to get a win. They did enough to put 29 points on the board, but when you look at this offense, they lose Blake Corum early. They lost Andrell Anthony. They lost A.J. Henning. They lost a number of guys. Cade McNamara was hurt at some point. He's working through something, as Jim Harbaugh likes to say. But I think that the biggest disappointment was the fact that the offensive line seemed to struggle at times and struggle with things that they haven't struggled with all season long. I believe moving forward for Penn State and definitely Ohio State at the end of the year, you're going to see a lot of movement up front. And they struggled blocking movement. They struggled blocking simple twists that they've been able to pick up. They're just going to have to show that they can do it again.
More sacks against Indiana allowed than I think the entire rest of the season. And that's got to stop as you move forward against Penn State and later on Ohio State and Maryland. The one thing, though, that was important for this offense is early in the game, Michigan's up on top 10-7. All of us are 10-0, and all of a sudden Indiana comes back, makes it 10-7. The next possession, the Michigan offense answers. That is huge because, again, it re-puts you in control a little bit. And that offensive drive, that one was a thing of beauty, and it kind of got them back in the game.
Well, anytime a team pulls within one score, you've got to do something to respond. You've got to do something to answer. They put together a great drive. They were able to get great production out of Hassan Haskins, and we're going to talk more about him in just a minute, as I thought he had one of the best games I've seen a Michigan running back have. But also, when you look at the production of the tight end, when you get 2 touchdowns out of your tight ends, that in and itself makes a quarterback comfortable, and it shows that you can move the ball when you need to, and it's most concerning.
We talked a little bit about the injury to Blake Corum. He, of course, is the number 1A back in Michigan's backfield with Hassan Haskins. But Haskins, as John mentioned, had a career day rushing, over 160 yards. But more importantly, Hassan Haskins, who started his career as a linebacker, has become a complete back. He can fake, he can catch passes, and he can block, and he's a power runner, but he's got enough wiggle where he can actually make people miss. Hassan, really, you talk about a guy developing before your very eyes, has developed into an outstanding running back who can play every down, and going forward, he may have to.
Well, you remember in 2019, kind of the game that we all remember the most is that Notre Dame game when they rushed for over 300 yards, and that was the first time we saw Hassan Haskins do his leap, as he had a big run in that game, showed the leap. We've seen it in about every game so far, but the durability of Hassan Haskins. He blocks. He obviously had 27 carries tonight. You don't see that, and he hasn't had to do that because it's been a 1-2 punch with him and Blake, but now all of a sudden Blake's not there. Donovan Edwards isn't there. You've really only got Hassan Haskins that is a proven commodity in the backfield.
The ability, though, for Hassan to make people miss and carry a pile 5 and 6 yards. We've seen him do that, so him do it against Indiana. That's rare in a running back.
It is, and he's got great toughness, and that toughness shows up when you can carry a defense for a few yards. It also shows up in pass protection. When you are a running back, and yeah, everybody wants to score touchdowns, they want to have 50-yard runs, but when you can step up and pick up a blitzing linebacker, when you can chip on a defensive end, when you can do those things, now you're a tough running back, and that is a complete running back.
Last question as we go forward. Offensive line's got to play better. Does that affect how the quarterback plays? Because both J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara didn't have great nights. Cade certainly not as good as he had a week ago against Michigan State. And I think that's a function more of the offensive line not getting their jobs done as much as it is the quarterback. But clearly you need better production out of the quarterback.
Well, you do.
And quote, let me interrupt, red zone production's got to be more efficient still.
You have 6 trips in the red zone. You score on every trip, so you're 100% there, but you can't settle for 3 field goals. Those are points left on the field.
And that we can't have. And we'll see if that goes on as we go down the road. In the meantime, stay with us. Coming up next, head coach Jim Harbaugh talks about this victory over Indiana.
Today's conversation with Jim Harbaugh is brought to you by Meijer, official sponsor of Michigan Athletics and proud sponsors of local sports teams across the Midwest.
Coach, how'd you feel your team responded this week?
They responded. Really proud of them, and heck of a good win. I think it really started with the pass rushers. Defensively, I mean, I think we got to the quarterback 9 times, hurried him, and got hits in there, and 4 3-and-outs in the second half. I really loved the way they came out in the second half, and across the board, just really pleased. You know, it's a big win in November.
I know that putting pressure on a quarterback is always part of the goal, but being a freshman quarterback that Indiana had, was it even more important, more emphasized this week?
No, it wasn't. Some really good performances. Aiden, David Ajabo, Taylor Upshaw. There was a lot of guys. And some improvements on the substitutions. I thought we did a much better job there, and some improvement in the tackling, but also. We'll address it the same way, things to get better at.
Hassan Haskins, 168 yards. He's been a workhorse. What have you seen from him, not just tonight, but throughout the year?
I just can't. I mean, there's no player I love more than Hassan Haskins. He's just a real football player in every sense of the word. He's so tough, so durable. He's so electric for a big back. I mean, how many big, strong backs are like that, and he cracked off a wide zone play, which we don't run a lot of wide zone, but that one went for about 64.
Do you have a moment of pause when he tries to leap over those defenders every time?
Yeah, I do. I really do. He was a 6'7" high jumper in high school. It's just it's in him. He does so many things that are of freaky is, I guess, the word everybody uses. I mean, it really kind of describes his athletic ability.
I know that there were a number of guys that got dinged up. Blake Corum early on, A.J. Henning, Andrell Anthony. Any update on any of those guys?
Yeah, and Jamon Green, too. No early update. Hopefully, it's not going to be real long-term kind of stuff, but, we'll stay prayed up and get healed up.
We saw a little more of J.J. in the second half. Was that due to Cade getting dinged a little bit? Yeah. He was sore, and a couple things came back that he's as tough as can be too. So nice to see Luke Schoonmaker. Cade was able to find Scooney for a couple touchdowns, and C.J. Johnson had the big long play as well. Nice to see Roman Wilson, get back in there and get some touches too. So yeah, there's some other guys that'll be healthier next week, and so just take it day by day, John. Really, I mean, it's going to be have good days, have good meetings, have good practices, and then go play the game. But like where our team's at, going down the stretch. You mentioned briefly there, coming out of halftime, defense went 4 3-and-outs. How important was it for them to set the tone in the second half?
Well, it was really important and allowed no points in the second half. I thought it was a heck of a good job. They kept getting the ball back for the offense. And also tip of the cap to Jake Moody, who continues to be putting together a heck of a year.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Time now for our Al Rose Steel Man of the Week.
If you don't love Hassan Haskins, you don't love the game of football. Because I'm telling you what, this guy embodies everything good about the game.
Hassan Haskins was a busy man against the Hoosiers. With Blake Corum leaving due to injury, the senior toted the pigskin a workmanlike 27 times for a career-high 168 yards. And he also scored his team-leading 11th rushing touchdown of the season.
Online played good, tight ends, beats, everybody, receivers, just all around the board, just, we did our job.
Jim, this is a busy time of year on campus. Fall sports are winding down and winter sports are amping up. Friday night, we got our first look at Juwan Howard and the basketball team. The Wolverines played their sole exhibition game on the road against Wayne State, a rarity in big-time hoops. Michigan helped the Warriors christen the gorgeous new WSU Fieldhouse. Hunter Dickinson paced a 21-0 first-half run that blew the game wide open. The sophomore tossed in a team-high 14. Freshman big man Musa Diabate also had 14. Michigan rolled 87-54. The games begin for real Wednesday with a home contest against Buffalo.
We trust that our guys will develop because they want to be coached. They enjoy playing with one another, and it's a beauty to come in the building every time and knowing that you're going to get guys that want to get better.
Hockey swept a weekend home-and-home series against Michigan State, including a sold-out Friday night opener at Yost Arena. The Wolverines won 7-2 and 3-2, improving to 8-2 on the season. Like the football team, the third-ranked hockey team will be at Penn State this weekend with games Thursday and Friday, and we'll be there with coverage of both clubs on our various digital platforms. For Inside Michigan Football, I'm Ed Kingerski.
Inside Michigan Football is brought to you in part by Meijer, official sponsor of Michigan Athletics and proud sponsors of local sports teams across the Midwest. And by Gardner White, Detroit's #1 furniture and mattress store.
Let's take a trip into our time machine to November 7th, 1981. Illinois quarterback Tony Eason shocked the 105,000 fans at Michigan Stadium, leading the Illini to a 21-7 first quarter lead. The Wolverines woke up and rolled off 9 straight touchdown drives. Quarterback Steve Smith rushed for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw for 224 yards and 3 more scores. Anthony Carter racked up 154 yards and 3 TD catches as the Wolverines crushed the Illini 70-21. That comeback victory against Illinois took place 40 years ago today. Well, as they say, it's time for the stretch run, and Michigan enters the stretch run. Go on the road to Happy Valley, not an easy place to play, and noon kick. So you know you're going to get Penn State's best shot, and they're a good football team.
Anytime somebody plays Michigan, they're going to give you their best shot, especially a team that had high hopes. They haven't followed through. They could salvage some of their season by trying to get a win against Michigan.
And the important thing about Penn State is you go into this game, you kind of look to scout them. Sean Clifford, their quarterback, is a running guy, but he's also a good passing guy. You got Jahan Dotson, who's the big play guy who hurt Michigan in the past. Where do you focus if you're a defense?
Well, I think, again, you got to try and make them one-dimensional. And I think Sean Clifford is a guy that's he's going to make some throws. So you say, okay, let's take away the running game. Let's make him one-dimensional. And then we can focus on Jahan Dotson. We can focus on, solidifying the secondary and then putting pressure on him.
You know, offensively, it's real simple. You better block better up front line of scrimmage, protect your quarterback, I think, in Happy Valley.
Yeah, you've got to make Cade McNamara, JJ, if he's in there, you got to make him comfortable. And let's face it, when you end the game in East Lansing with a loss, they're able to get a win, but the playoffs started. It is win or go home, and Michigan knows it.
And so does Penn State. So make sure you're here next week. We'll tell you all about it. Michigan, Penn State, right here on Inside Michigan Football.
Tonight's the night you turn your clocks back, daylight savings time. I was told that by our engineer, most valuable player, producer, Tony Butler.
Do I have to do it at 2 o'clock?
You don't have to
do it earlier.
You can do it at midnight if you want.
Oh, okay.
You can do it anytime you want, Dan.